Right now, somewhere on this planet, one animal is trying to convince another animal to become its mate. Certain species have come up with very interesting ways to do this, and some of the most fascinating examples can be found in the bird world. Courtship displays are very common amongst birds, and certain species have more complex displays than others. In this video I'll be going through just a few examples of these interesting displays, as I'll be going through 8 birds that have fascinating ways of impressing the ladies. And for our first group of birds we can head to Southeast Asia and Australia, as we have the birds of paradise. Now of course the birds of paradise are not one species, but are instead a large family of colourful birds. There are around 44 species, and most of these species are found in dense rainforest environments. Members of the bird of paradise family can look very different to each other, but the males are often very colourful and very flamboyant. Famously, these birds have some of the most complex courtship displays, and each species has a very unique dance. Some are strangely very basic and involve a lot of flapping, whereas others can be somewhat mesmerising. In some cases the males stop looking like birds altogether and start to morph into different forms. Some famously look like they're wearing dresses, and others morph into strange large faces. One of the most interesting things about these courtship displays is that males tend to work together. You'll often see multiple males dancing for one female, and they do tend to help each other out. So not only are these males fascinating and beautiful, but they're also very happy to help their friends out. But for our next bird species, we can head over to the Pacific, as we have the black-footed albatross. Like many other members of its family, the black-footed albatross is a very impressive seabird, with a very impressive wingspan. Its wingspan can measure up to 2.2 meters in length, and they can reach a maximum weight of around 3.5 kilograms. This wingspan and their size makes them impressive gliders, and they seem to effortlessly patrol the waves. In the wild, this bird is a predator, and mostly feeds on small fish, squid, and crustaceans. Unfortunately, in recent years they have also been consuming other foods, because just like many other seabirds, they do eat plastics. These plastics are often confused for food, and can lead to the albatross meeting an early end. But if these birds do make it to maturity, they can live for an extraordinary amount of time, as the oldest black-footed albatross on record lived to over 60 years old. Now most members of the albatross family have very interesting courtship dances. This is especially the case with the black-footed albatross, as they tend to face each other and bow, before touching their bills together and swinging their heads back and forth. They often open their wings wide and point their bills to the sky, and while doing this they make some very loud and interesting sounds. It's thought that this behaviour may have evolved to ensure maximum trust between the birds. For these birds, raising a chick is a massive investment, and this courtship dance proves that both of the birds are committed. So even though it's not the most elegant dance, there is a lot of meaning behind it. But for our next group of birds we'll be heading over to New Guinea and Australia, as we have the Bowerbirds. Now there are 27 species in the Bowerbird family, and again each of these birds can look very different to each other. Some are very colourful, such as the flame bowerbird, and others are more muted, such as the famous satin bowerbird. Now unlike the previous birds, this bird is not known for its courtship dances, but instead they are known for the structures that they create. Males tend to craft nest-like structures, and these structures are known as bowers. Each bowerbird species creates these nest-like structures a little differently, and the bowers of the satin bowerbirds are some of the most impressive. This species displays a lot of sexual dimorphism, with the males being a black colour and the females being more of a greenish colour. Despite these differences, they both have something in common, that being their bluey purple eyes. These eyes give us a clue into this bird's favourite colour, as the males have a strange obsession with bluey purple objects. Once they have built their bower, they find many shiny or coloured objects, and will scatter them around the bower. They're not very picky when choosing objects, as they'll often find plastic or glass items, but as long as they're blue, this bird will take them. If a female is impressed by a bower, she will then enter it, but at this point the mating ritual isn't over. The male will then proceed to perform a dance, and while doing this he will often hold his favourite trinket. If the female is impressed, they will eventually mate, and although their dance skills aren't as impressive as the birds of paradise, they do have one of the most elaborate courtship rituals. But for our next group of birds you can head to pretty much anywhere around the world, as I will be focusing on the grebes. Now once again, grebes aren't one species, but are instead a family of birds. These birds are most often found in freshwater habitats, and they are perfectly adapted to these areas. Although they may resemble other birds such as loons and coots, they are most closely related to flamingos. Flamingos themselves have very interesting courtship displays, but we'll get to them a little later on in the video. Now grebes are mostly diving birds, and feed on a wide variety of foods. This mostly comes in the form of fish and amphibians, and these birds have proved themselves to be very efficient aquatic predators. Now although different grebe species display their love differently, around the world they are known for their extravagant displays. In this video I will be highlighting 2 species, the western grebe and the great crested grebe. The western grebe performs a weed ceremony, which involves both birds running on the water together in an upright position, with their head held forward and their neck curved. After this, they will bob their heads under the water and dive down, and when they resurface, they hold weed in their beaks. After this elaborate display, they will eventually mate and begin to start a family together. A similar display is seen in the great crested grebe, but this bird's display is slightly less athletic. When these birds find a suitable mate, at first they will start head shaking and bill dipping, before starting their famous penguin dance. The pair will rush together until they are completely upright chest to chest. They will flick each other with beaks full of waterweed, and with a final head shake the weed is dropped. After this, the deal is sealed, and eventually they will go on to rear very striking chicks. So the grebes really do go all out when it comes to courtship dances. But for our next species, we can head to the eastern Pacific Ocean, as we have the blue-footed booby. As well as having a very strange name, this bird also has a very strange appearance. There are many other birds that are very similar to this booby, such as the red-footed booby and the brown booby. These birds are also very striking, but they don't have as impressive feet as the blue-footed booby. The colour of these birds' feet can actually indicate how healthy the bird is, because they get their coloration from their diet of fresh fish, and when these boobies are extremely food deprived, their feet will decrease in brightness. This decrease in colour also correlates with a decrease in antioxidants and stimulants, so a blue-footed booby with not very blue feet could actually be a very ill booby. Now us humans seem to find these feet very striking, but female blue-footed boobies find these feet irresistible. When a male is trying to impress a female, he will start flaunting his blue feet and dancing to impress the female. He will start by strutting in front of the female, then he will present nest materials to her. Their dance also often includes sky pointing, and the dance finally finishes with a final display of the male's feet. This is a very strange way to win over the females, and I think it's fair to say that blue-footed boobies definitely have a thing for feet. And for our next species, we can head over to North America and some small parts of Asia, as we have the Sandhill Crane. Now these birds are known for being very elegant birds, and are very important birds when it comes to art and culture. Both sexes look similar to each other, and these birds are famously quite tall. They max out at around 1.4 meters, and can have a wingspan of up to 2 meters. These wings obviously come in very handy when it comes to flying, but they are also used in their courtship displays. These birds are elegant dancers, and their dances peak during the mating season. These dances often involve a lot of jumping and mirroring, and once again in some instances they will throw nesting materials at each other. When doing these dances, these birds are famously loud, and this really adds to the spectacle. These dances are thought to play an important role in bonding, and it really is impressive to see such large birds dance in this way. But for our next group of birds, we can head to the tropical and subtropical oceans, as we have the Frigatebirds. Now once again, Frigatebirds are a group of birds, consisting of 5 main species. Arguably the 2 most famous species in this family are both the magnificent Frigatebird and the great Frigatebird. These birds are relatively large seabirds, and they're not known for being very friendly. Although they do often hunt their own prey at sea, such as fish and squid, they are famously more than happy to steal from other birds. They will often harry and harass smaller birds until they eventually drop their prey. These birds are then more than happy to hoover up the scraps, as this is often more efficient than catching the prey themselves. But even though these birds are known for being big meanies, the males do put on very impressive displays to catch the attention of the females. When the mating season comes around, the male will inflate his striking red gular sac, and then will continue to make very low clicking sounds. The females often find this irresistible, and after this, both sexes will incubate the eggs for around 50 to 60 days. So even though this species is not the nicest of birds, the males have a very unique way of impressing the females. But for our next group of birds, you can head to many places around the world, as we have the flamingos. Now there are 6 species of flamingo alive today, and these birds are spread over various continents. Some live in hot tropical zones, and some are found in high altitude mountain lakes. Despite being so far apart, they live very similar lives to each other, and spend most of their time feeding on aquatic creatures. This is famously how flamingos get their colour, and strangely the same organic pigments that make the flamingos pink are the same ones that make the blue-footed boobies' feet blue. When the breeding season comes around, certain species of flamingo have very interesting ways of bonding with each other. Instead of one male dancing for one female, large groups of flamingos all dance together in synchronization, saluting and turning their necks as they go. This helps the flamingos find a suitable mate, and really has to be one of the most impressive courtship displays to witness. Of course, there are many other birds that could have made it on this list, and if you know of any, let me know down in the comments below. Sorry I didn't get another video out this week, but as you might be able to tell from my voice, I am ill, but I should be back to making 2 videos next week. But thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed. If you liked it, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like these. But until next time, goodbye.